Greetings, friends. I'm John Lucas. I am the director of World Lead. World Lead is a ministry of Boca Raton Community Church. You're going to be seeing a series of videos on leader development that we have produced recently during this crisis time, and we hope they are worthy to serve you. God bless you.
Well, hello everyone. I wish with all my heart we could be in person, but I am grateful that we can join you through a video. My topic today is gratitude, and I've already changed the title. And I want you to write across the top of your page of notes that have been given to you, practicing the art of gratitude. Let me let you in on a wonderful secret. Gratitude brings joy. It brings joy for everyone around you, and particularly, it brings you joy. Gratitude is the ability to experience life as a gift. It opens us up to wonder, delight, and that beautiful trait of humility. And it liberates us from the prison of self-preoccupation. I understand, like you, that life can be difficult. And on many occasions, it is very hard to practice the art of gratefulness or gratitude. But I want to encourage you, as I encourage my own heart, that it is quite a wonderful, wonderful thing to put into practice. If you remember that story in Mark chapter 14, it's a familiar one to so many of us. Jesus is at a dinner party at Simon the leper's home. And a woman comes in, and Mark doesn't tell us her name, but he shows us what she does. She walks towards Christ and breaks open her bottle of very expensive ointment and pours it on his head. And Jesus would say she was preparing him for burial. And then when everybody else in the room doesn't quite understand why this woman has done such an incredible act that they think is not quite right, Jesus corrects them and puts them in their place. And he says, "She has done a beautiful thing to me." Now, so many of us are in Christian ministry, whether full-time or as a volunteer, and we know what it's like to do beautiful things for Christ. We serve him, we give, we help people, we donate our time and our resources to do beautiful things for Christ. But I want to encourage you that when we express gratitude and gratefulness to God for his gifts in our life, it's a way to do something beautiful to him. If we're not expressing gratitude, we fall into a terribly dark pit. And that pit is one of envy, one of dissatisfaction, one of quick to complain, taking what I have for granted, and always wanting more, and being quite greedy in the process. You see, the way some of us might be hard of hearing, many of us are hard of thanking. It's not a natural tendency. We aren't born with a spirit of gratefulness. It is a character quality that must be developed, must be encouraged, must be practiced, so we get better and better at it. But here's the wonderful good news. We can all improve. We can all get better at the art of gratefulness. I want to share a few of them with me, and I'm sure you have others that you'll be able to share in our small group time afterwards. Here's the first one, and it's a biblical concept. It's really an act of obedience. Psalms 105 tells us, "Remember the wonders that I have done for you." I think keeping track of God's blessings in our life is a wonderful way to develop the art of gratitude. You keep a pen and a journal by your bed, or you use your phone or your computer in the notes section, And before you fall asleep at night, you list 5 things, 5 events, 5 things that occurred that day that you want to tell God you're thankful for. They can be quite ordinary. Nothing extraordinary. You had a hug from a sweet child. You had a lengthy conversation that was meaningful with a coworker. Somebody sent you a card in the mail. You were able to get out of bed and walk out the door and go to work today. You make a list of 5 areas in your life that occurred that day, and you thank Him for each one, knowing He was the source of all of that goodness in your life. So number 1, keep track. Number 2 is designate one day a month, one day a week, where you don't ask God for anything. You don't cry out, you don't plead, you don't beg. And you take that day and make it a day of thanksgiving. And look for dozens of ways to tell Him how grateful you are for His many blessings in your life. Designate a day, number 2. And then on those days, when you cannot think of one thing to be grateful for, when the sky is black and your heart is hard and life is more than you can handle, I want to encourage you on those days to go back to that little book where you've been jotting down 5 things every night, or open up your phone and reread the things that you were thankful for in the days gone by. Remember the wonders He has done. Anne Voskamp would tell us, when I give thanks for the seemingly microscopic in my life, I make a place for God to grow within me. Here's a 4th idea. Look for people that you can say thank you to. Be aware of small acts of kindness, of civility that has been done to you that you can acknowledge and say thank you. As we practice saying thank you to other people, that spirit of gratefulness will naturally be turned to the Lord as well. So tell other people thank you. Number 5, build gratitude. It builds on number 4. Build gratitude around you in daily, unexpected, undeserved acts of love, compassion, kindness, forgiveness that you extend to other people. If you are looking for ways to thank other people, you will in turn show them love and compassion. Another way to develop the art of gratitude in our own hearts. John Lucas, here's the 6th point. John Lucas teaches us about developing a code of ethics, life choices, life values that we put down in writing, that we laminate perhaps and tuck in our Bible or have on our computer screens or our phones, that we review periodically to remind us this is what I'm striving to do by God's grace. And I would encourage you to make gratitude one of those life values. I want to tell you I've made it one of mine. May I practice the art of gratefulness every day. Make it a life value and practice it. And then this one is not in your notes, but I want you to add it in. It's probably the place we should have started at the very beginning. Ask God to give you a spirit of gratefulness. It's a simple prayer. But if you are sincere about it, I know He will develop gratitude and gratefulness in you. There's many things that might cause us to be an ungrateful people, and I won't touch on all of them. But there's one in particular that can make our hearts grow very hard. It's when we have unanswered prayers in our life. And I want to encourage you to think of unanswered prayer in 3 ways. I want to help you develop a spirit of gratitude even for those things. And I want to remind you, whatever I'm sharing with you, I'm also striving to practice. The first one is know with confidence that God hears your prayers. Lots of scriptures to back this up. 1 John 5:15. This is the confidence we have in approaching Christ, that if we ask anything according to his will, he hears us. He hears us. Psalm 65:1. O you who hear prayer, to you shall all flesh come. God describes his nature as one who hears prayer. We get to pray to a God who says, I am a God who hears prayer. Have confidence that he is hearing your prayers. Number 2, trust that prayer makes a difference even when you can't see it. You don't see the difference. You don't see the effect. And God is telling us to walk by faith and to believe that because he is a God who hears and answers prayer, we can be confident that he's going to answer in his perfect time. Let me read from Romans chapter 4. It's a passage about Abraham when he was waiting for a son. From verse 17, as it is written, I have made you a father of many nations. That was God's promise to Abraham, but it wasn't fulfilled for a very long time. In the presence of God in whom he believed, who gives life to the dead and calls into existence the things that do not exist. In hope, Abraham believed against hope. May that be a hallmark of your life and mine. In hope, may we believe against hope, that he should become the father of many nations, as he had been told, so shall your offspring be. He did not weaken in faith when he considered his own body, which was as good as dead, since he was about 100 years old, or when he considered the barrenness of Sarah's womb. No distrust made him waver concerning the promise of God, but he grew strong in his faith as he gave glory to God. And listen to these 2 words: fully convinced that God was able to do what he had promised. Abraham was fully convinced. I want you to remember those 2 words. I want us to be people who are fully convinced even when we can't see how he will answer that prayer. And then the third area to help us not become discontent and ungrateful when prayers are not answered is to tell fear it has no place in this conversation and to replace it with faith, the faith Abraham had that I just read to you. There's a beautiful, beautiful picture in Jeremiah 27. A promise to claim for those difficult times in our life. Behold, I am the Lord, the God of all flesh. Is anything too difficult for me? You see, we get to choose. We can turn every prayer into an opportunity to thank him for what he's doing, what he will do, what he can do. Or we can choose to complain and turn our day into a litany of what God should be doing for me right now. Let me close with a story that illustrates for me the beauty of gratitude and gratefulness. My mother was 48 when she had a massive stroke, and she was dying in the hospital. And we had teams of doctors giving us conflicting responses. There was a team that said to my father and to us, if she goes into the operating room to remove that clot from her brain, she will most certainly die. And there was another team saying to us, if you don't have the surgery, she will die. And I remember my father, his head in his hands, perplexed, totally uncertain of what way to go. And we cry out for God to show us the way. And somebody remembered Adnan. Adnan was my mother's cousin who lived in Philadelphia. Adnan was a neurosurgeon at the University of Philadelphia, Medical Center. We called him. He said, "You must send me the CAT scans." They were overnighted to him. When they reached his desk, he got on the phone and he told my father, "Pamela has to go into surgery." Of course, my father told him what we had been hearing. He says, "I'm getting on a plane tonight, and I will go into the operating room with my cousin." And that's exactly what he did. He left his work, his family, his responsibilities. He flew down here, and he went into the operating room. And my mother had a one chance of survival. And in God's gracious way, she did survive. And she lived for many more years after that surgery, in spite of that horrific stroke that she had endured. When we thanked Adnan, when we hugged him and expressed to him how grateful we were for what he had done for us, he said, "You don't know the story, do you?" We said, "What story?" He said, "When I was a little boy, my father passed away. And your mom, Pamela, her father, of course, knew it. And so every week, as he took a portion of his paycheck and he mailed it to Lebanon to his sister. His sister was my mom. And my mom would take that money that arrived in the mail and she used it for many things, but most particularly, she used it to pay for our school fees. For my school fees and my brother's school fees in elementary and in high school. And then when we got to high school, we earned a scholarship for medical school. And Adnan looked at us and said, "The reason I am a doctor today, the reason I'm a neurosurgeon, the reason I was able to come and help you in this way was because there was a man who had a large heart and he thought of others and he sent money our way. And so for me to help Pamela in this way, oh my, it's the very least I can do." That story is one that I have never, ever forgotten. And it reminds me that we really don't have a clue what God will do with our acts of gratitude and gratefulness. Gratefulness is a gift that we get to extend to others without a clue of the return on our investment and the lifelong impact it will have for years to come. Brothers and sisters and friends, I pray that God will enable you to practice the art of gratitude, that He will infuse your life with many occasions where you will turn your face to Him and say thank you and worship and offer thanks to others for their blessings in your life. And may He forgive us for those times when we chose not to be grateful. And may He replace those in your life and in mine, that we would be a people of gratitude and gratefulness. Thank you so very much.